Good morning, children. Today we will start fourth chapter of history, rural life and society. In today's lesson we will learn colonial agrarian policies, permanent settlement in Bengal, Mahalwari system and Rohitwari system. How did British East India Company gain political power in India? We did it in second chapter. In the Battle of Buxar, the alliance of Emperor Shah Alam, Nawab Mir Qasim, Sujauddaulah was defeated by the East India Company. The Treaty of Allahabad was signed between the two. The treaty marked the political and constitutional involvement and the beginning of British rule in India. Based on the terms of the agreement, Emperor Shah Alam granted the East India Company Diwani rights, which means the right to collect taxes on behalf of the emperor from the eastern provinces of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. These rights allowed the company to collect revenue directly from the people of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Earlier, before Britishers got the Diwani right, Jamindars in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa had functionaries. Functionaries means officials who held the right to collect revenue on behalf of the Mughal emperor and his representative or Diwan in Bengal. The Diwan supervised the Jamindars to ensure that they were neither lax nor overly stringent. And what about the Britishers? Before getting the Diwani, Britishers were paying the cash and gold for the commodities which they were purchasing from India. But once they got Diwani, this inflow of cash from Britain stopped. The company had become the Diwan, but it still saw itself primarily as a trader. It wanted a large revenue income but was unwilling to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. The effort was to increase the revenue as much as it could and buy fine cotton and silk cloth as cheaply as possible. Within 5 years, the value of goods bought by the company in Bengal doubled. Before 1865, the company had purchased goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain, as I told you earlier. But now, the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export. Soon it was clear that the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. Artisans were deserting the villages since they were being forced to sell their goods to the company at low prices. Peasants were unable to pay the dues that were being demanded from them. Artisanal production was in decline and agricultural cultivation showed signs of collapse. Then in 1770, a terrible famine killed 10 million people in Bengal. About one third of the population was wiped out. If the economy was in ruins, could the company be certain of its revenue income? Most company officials began to feel that the investment in land had to be encouraged and agriculture had to be improved. How was this to be done? In this chapter, we will see how the company came to colonize the countryside, organize revenue resources, redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. When the news of this economic crisis reached the British Parliament, it passed an act in 1784 called Pitt's India Act, under which the revenue and other administrative system had to be built up to streamline the company rule in Bengal, which the Parliament suspected was not being done properly. Lord Cornwallis was sent to India in 1784 as the new Governor General of the British territories in India to reform the decimal state of revenue and other administrative system in Bengal and other states. Before starting it, let's try to understand the hierarchy existed in the countryside. Jamindars were at the topmost level. A Jamindar was an autonomous or semi-autonomous ruler of a state who accepted the suzerainty of the emperor, and at some places they were made entitled to collect revenue on behalf of the emperor. Villages were having headmen. Village headman means like Mukhya or who acts like a Mukhya or is the community leader of a village. Every village was having a headman. Sometimes when village was small, under one headman, two or more villages were there. The last one was the Royats. Royats, that is peasant. A peasant is an agricultural laborer or a farmer with limited land ownership or small landholder, especially one living in the Middle Ages under feudalism and paying rent, tax, fees or services to a landlord. And above all were the Britishers. So we will talk about three different systems of revenue settlement introduced by the Britishers. The first one was the permanent settlement, in which Jamindars were made in charge of collecting revenue. The second one was the Mahalwari system, in which the village headman was made in charge of collecting revenue. And the third one was the Royatwari system, in which the contract was directly made between Royats and Britishers. After 2 decades of debate on the question, the company finally introduced the permanent settlement. The permanent settlement was a grand contract between the East India Company and the Bengal landholders, that is Jamindars and independent Talukdars, which laid down a new system of revenue administration in the state of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. The Jamindars, who earlier collected the revenue on behalf of the Mughal state from the farmers having ownership right over the land they cultivated, were made the owners of the land. They were expected to collect the assessed revenue from the peasants who became their tenants and deposit it with the company. The revenue amount was fixed and the settlement was made permanent, that is, it was not to be increased in future. The Jamindars were required to pay 10/11th of the revenue to the government and were allowed to keep the remaining 1/10. In case the Jamindar made efforts and succeeded in increasing the agricultural production, the government was not going to claim any extra charges and only the Jamindars were to be the beneficiary. However, if a Jamindar failed to pay the revenue on time, some part of his land or the entire Jamindari territory was to be auctioned to settle the company's claim. The permanent settlement, however, created problems. Company officials soon discovered that the Jamindars were in fact not investing in the improvement of land. The revenue that had been fixed was so high that Jamindars found it difficult to pay. Anyone who failed to pay the revenue lost his jamindari. Numerous jamindaris were sold off at auction organized by the company. By the first decade of the 19th century, the situation changed. The prices in the market rose and cultivation slowly expanded. This meant an increase in the income of the jamindars, but no gain for the company since it could not increase the revenue demand that had been fixed permanently. Even then, the Jamindars did not have an interest in improving the land. So, some had lost their lands in the earlier years of the settlement. Others now saw the possibility of earning without the trouble and risk of the investment. As long as Jamindars could give out the land to tenants and get rent, they were not interested in improving the land. On the other hand, in the villages, the cultivators found the system extremely oppressive. The rent he paid to the Jamindar was high and his right on the land was insecure. To pay the rent, he had to often take a loan from the moneylender, and when he failed to pay the rent, he was evicted from the land he had cultivated for generations. Thus, the peasantry was crushed under the triple burden of the government, the Jamindar and the moneylender. After these three had taken their share, not much was left for the cultivator and his family to subsist on. This remained true not only in the case of Bengal, where they had lost their ownership of land, but even in the Mahalwari and Rohitwari systems, where they had retained the right on their land. By the early 19th century, many of the company officials were convinced that the system of revenue had to be changed again. How could revenues be fixed permanently at a time when the company needed more money to meet its expenses of administration and trade? An Englishman called Holt Mackenzie devised the new system which came into effect in 1822. It was introduced in the princely states of Awadh and Agra in Uttar Pradesh, parts of Odisha and Madhya Pradesh, and the erstwhile Punjab. He felt that the village was an important social institution in North Indian society and needed to be preserved. Under Under his directions, collectors went from village to village inspecting the land, measuring the fields, and recording the customs and rights of different groups. The estimated revenue of each plot within a village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village or mahal had to pay. This demand was to be revised periodically, not permanently fixed. The charge of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman rather than the jamindar. This system came to be known as the Mahalwari system. Rohitwari system of revenue collection. The Rohitwari system was introduced by Thomas Munro, the governor of Madras during 1819 to 26. It was introduced in Madras Presidency and it later covered the Bombay Presidency as well as the whole of the South India. However, if a jamindar failed to pay the revenue on time, some part of his land or the entire jamindari territory was to be auctioned to settle the company's claim. This is all for today. In the next class, we will do growth of commercial crops. Thank you and have a nice day.